I was going to suggest that today we talked about, like, to be honest, what to do when you feel like everything's going wrong and having a meltdown. Because both of us this morning, myself included, Yasmine was like, this has been the worst morning ever. And I was like, don't worry, I think my agency is going to die today, which I say like every week.
Hi, I'm Lucy.
And I'm Yasmine.
And we started an online community called Ecomm Girls Club because we had no friends.
Well, no, we had friends, just not friends working in e-commerce, D2C marketing and brand building like us.
And now we do. Ecomm Girls Club is the first international community exclusively for girls in e-commerce, and we have a lot to say about it.
So we started a podcast. We'll be here each week to talk about the highs and lows of entrepreneurship, building online business and the problems we face in the e-com industry.
And we'll also be sharing the stories of the amazing women within our community who are all crushing it. So let's get into it.
It makes me laugh that, like, we're now at the point in the year, Yaz, where every time we log on to this podcast, we're both in different countries. Like, all the time.
I love it. I'm actually back in Spain now. Like, I'm back in...
I can tell by your background.
Back where I was. Yeah. I'm back where I was when we recorded the last episode.
But you've been to the UK in between, right?
Yes, I've been to the UK in between. And then... I'm here for like another 2 weeks. Where are you? You're in London?
I'm in Wandsworth. Yeah, I'm in London.
Big up Wandsworth.
Big up. I've travelled 6,000 miles since the last podcast, and I'm now in London, and actually not that jet lagged. I'm quite impressed with myself. But yeah, I think summer for low-key kind of digital nomads is just a bit wild. Like, I think I'm going to be doing this podcast in a different country for the next like 6 episodes. Like every single one.
I think. Oh, but exciting news. Lucy and I are
exciting.
actually recording, or going to be able to record together in literally 3 weeks' time, I think.
Because Yasmine invited herself to Lisbon. She invited herself on my trip. But no, of course. It's
I actually did.
Yeah.
I'm really excited though. It's going to be our first, well, firstly, it's going to be our only like 4th or 5th time meeting in real life.
Which is
mad. Like, considering
So
we've
mad.
built a whole business together and we've been working together for like nearly a year now, and we've only met 4 or
And
5
we're
times.
friends.
That's insane.
Put that
And
on
we're friends. Yeah, we're really excited. I think the in-person podcast is going to be really good.
Yeah, it will be, because we'll be having live meltdowns in front of each other instead of via the medium of WhatsApp.
I don't know if that's a good thing.
I don't think so.
At least on WhatsApp we can block each other out. No, not dealing with this today.
Like this morning I said to Yasmin, I was like, I'm technically meant to be semi out of office because I'm low-key pretending to be the next Holly Willoughby and presenting for a few days in London. Joke. But I literally said to Yaz this morning, I was like, I'm away. Like, I was basically trying to tell her to go away.
No, she's not even just said she's away. She's literally blocked out 3 days of our calendar saying Lucy MIA. 2.5 weeks before we're running the biggest event of our life. Great. Okay.
And the other thing that made me laugh this morning is, like, one of my favourite things about Yaz is that you are predictable. And when you sent me a message being like, I'm never running an event again, I was like, oh, I was waiting for that to happen.
Literally,
Every time.
I hate it.
Every time.
I hate it. The problem is it's just not my forte. Like,
but then you love it when you do them.
Yeah, because I love being there and being like in the energy and meeting all the girls and having the conversations. Like, I'm a front man. I am not the... I can't believe I just said that.
Don't worry, I just called myself Holly Willoughby. We're both at new lows today.
We're just backing ourselves today. Yeah, but I just hate, like, honestly, running an event is just such a different skill set to mine.
But you're also better at it than you think. I think you tell yourself you're not good at it when that's not true, because very much like on the creative and the artistic side of things, you're great and you get things done when you need to get things done. And I basically told you I'm not around for 3 days and you're fine, you know, like you're just picking it up.
I'm going to make it. Yeah.
You'll be fine. I have no doubts. Like, hence why I ignored you when you were like, I hate running events this morning. I was like, I'm not going to respond.
It's better just to not respond to me when I'm in those moments, because it's like, I don't need feeding. Don't fuel the fire.
Don't feed the monster.
Let me calm down. And I'm like Bridezilla, but for Ecomm Girls Club. the cups.
No, it's all good. But I remember what I've done it to you though before, when I've like sent like a million messages. Like, I'm really annoying. I'll be like, don't read this to Monday, and then I send about 10 messages, and I know full well it's so annoying for people.
Also, like, when you see a message come through from your co-founder saying don't read until Monday, you're not gonna read it until Monday. Like, you just,
I just
don't
want
do
it
that.
off my list. I just want it off my
I
list.
know,
Of
yeah,
things
great,
to
and
send,
onto
so I'm
mine.
Bat it to Yasmine on a Sunday, and then tell her I'm not going to be in work for 2 days.
Yeah,
bye. Enjoy.
God, love this. I love this job.
I was going to suggest that today we talked about, like, to be honest, what to do when you feel like everything's going wrong and having a meltdown.
Yes.
Because both of us this morning, myself included, Yasmine was like, this has been the worst morning ever. And I was like, don't worry, I think my agency is going to die today, which I say like every week.
Yeah,
But,
and how you have been saying that every week for the last 8 months, and all that's happened is you've actually been growing every week for the last 8 months.
I know, but I just feel so overwhelmed. So I always think it's useful, whether you're running a business in e-com or just in anything in life, to when it feels like everything's falling apart, which is just part of life, I think, to a certain extent, what do you do, or how do you reframe it? Because we obviously get through it because we're still going.
Yeah, I mean, God, that is such a big question, because I feel like there isn't just one answer. I think for me, it's like always going to come down to like a practical implementation of how I manage myself. And we've spoken about this on other podcasts, but like practicality is very important for me, because I can sometimes not, you know, in my own mind, I'm not always the most rational, logical person. So it could literally just be going for a walk or using tools in my day to like literally help me digest. Firstly, my to-do list. I think that's like an easy, low-hanging fruit thing. But then also just zooming out, you know, which is what I was trying to do earlier today so just for context, it's Monday morning. It's Monday morning.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my God, what day is it? And I woke up to like 7 emails and WhatsApps from contract manufacturers who help us with cloth project, saying that like all of the deliveries, bear in mind there's like £4,000 worth of stock in transit at the moment, well, the delivery addresses are wrong on every single parcel. And they're all over the world at the moment. Like some are still in the Far East, some are in like Manchester, some are in, oh my God. And so, that was just mass panic. I think we've sorted it. And then on top of that, we're just having like a few issues with other suppliers and whatnot. So it was just like a very stressful start to my week. And I was just sat here trying to like almost self-soothe to the point where I'm like, just don't freak out about this, because it's not a big deal. Like it really isn't. At the end of the day, the parcels are going to be found. They've all got tracking numbers. Yeah, like yes, it's inconvenient, and yes, it's very stressful. But I'm just trying to do that. Like I'm trying to just talk to myself and zoom out and get that perspective on these kind of micro issues, which in the time can feel like the end of the world, but they're not.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think for me, I guess I maybe, because my to-do list upsets me as well, because it's horrific normally, which is my own fault. Stress. The thing I always tell myself is, one, I'm like, to be honest, at this point, I only have myself to blame for everything, and I think radical accountability is very important when you're like running a business and things like that. You know, at the end of the day, everything I do is my fault, whether I like it or not, because it's like, if I have too much, it's because I haven't resourced my business properly, or, you know, so I normally have a little bit of a go at myself, but I also then, I'm pretty good at telling myself, you know, I'll be fine. Like, why am I getting annoyed? Like, take a step back. What's the worst thing that can happen? And to your point, normally it's like, no one's dying, you know? Like, most of the thing, you know, unless someone is getting hurt or their life is in danger or it could ruin someone's life. Yeah. And neither of us are doing heart surgery.
I was going to say, like, which realistically in our industry, like, and what we do, it's never the end of the world. I guess, there are different like scales, but even I think I told the story one time on this podcast where we had like a 40-foot container sat in a country in the Middle East full of cosmetics melting in 55-degree heat. That's an example where like you can freak out, and I did freak out, but like even that was fine. Actually, I just want to pick up on your point about radical accountability, because I actually think that concept is really interesting. Did you get that from Ray Dalio? Have you read his book, Principles?
No, I actually, do you know what? I actually got it from LinkedIn from a founder of another agency. I think it might even be Saw, who we're pretty good friends with, the Ecomm Girls Club. I think it might be their founders talking about giving radical accountability to their staff and as a system and process for running an agency, which is also super important. So I think that's where, but I'm sure they got it from
Ray. Good old Ray. Ray Dalio's book, Principles, is my like Bible. It's not a book you read from start to finish. It's like a book that you just have to have in your collection and you go back to. And it's, anyway, one of his principles is radical accountability. And I think it's like quite a stoic principle. And like with all things that we read and take in, like it's really important to see different sides and kind of challenge different ideas. And I think radical accountability is definitely something that, like, if you can employ in your day, amazing. But there is also a reality to this, in that, like, we are emotional beings. And sometimes being like taking on full accountability for absolutely everything is a really admirable trait, but also it can be really overwhelming. So I don't know, how do you, it can make it worse. So like, I don't know, how do you balance that? Would you say?
And this is another thing that's super important if you're running a business or whatever you're doing in life, is, and we've spoken about this so many times, but who you surround yourself with is super important.
Yes, this is a great one.
I have people around me who will tell me to give myself a break, or will show me some perspective on how I'm talking to myself or my expectations of myself, which are normally wildly, like, they're ridiculous, the standards I try and hold myself to. So I think that helps. I think the radical accountability thing is just good in terms of, also, as much as everything is my fault, I'm like, but then also I am in control of it. So actually, if I've got 10 times too much work, well then maybe you need to let go of a client. I've never actually done this, but I'm serious.
She won't.
I'm sure you could do that. But to my, or like if there's a client that's not a good fit, or I don't know, if you've overscheduled commitments to some volunteering, or, something in your life, like, well, radical accountability also is, being accountable for your own well-being, I would say, as well. Like,
yes, totally. Yeah. And also just like trying not to blame so this is like radical accountability. It's like if shit happens, you try and like take the responsibility. And I guess the concept is, or like the thinking is, that if you're taking responsibility and accountability, you can like solve problems instead of just pushing them onto other people.
Yeah. And then I think it also extends to, obviously, sometimes the things that overwhelm us are not our own actions. It's the actions of other people and their feelings, or they might complain. Yes. And then at the same time, it's like, well, they're accountable for their own feelings. You can do so much. Yeah. And then you have to have boundaries. And I think that's important for overwhelmers as well. Like, to be honest, every time I travel to the UK specifically, I end up overwhelmed. It's a running joke that on day 3 or 4 of me being in the UK, I have a complete and utter meltdown about something, because I grew up here. So I have all my childhood friends here, my family are here, my university friends are here. Like, I have half my client base is here, and I'm not very good at having boundaries, and I say yes to things, and then I wonder why I can't get all my work done, and I feel like shit, and I'm crying and I'm stressed and I'm not enjoying it. And it's that's so overwhelming for me. And it's like, boundaries are super important as well. You need to have clear boundaries. So now I try and block out at least 3 nights whilst I'm here where I do nothing. And it's annoying because I could be seeing people I want to see, but I'm responsible for 2 businesses. I'm responsible for my well-being. I'm responsible for making sure I show up my best every day and not be overwhelmed and not on top form and stuff. So actually I need to do that. And it has, it's day 2, so we'll circle back on this next week.
But how long are you there for?
This time I'm here for a week, and then I'm away for 2.
Okay.
No, I'm here for a week, away for a week, and back for a week. But
I was going to say, like, having just 3 days off is not a lot of time. Probably not enough time. But if you are only there for a week,
I'm actually working another job. Technically, I'm presenting
for
3 days.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm not off. I'm just off my laptop. But I find it doesn't feel like work. it is because it's tiring, but it's a nice break from being on my laptop. So it's not rest, but it's a break.
Yeah. No, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do for boundaries and stuff with people?
I just don't reply on WhatsApp. Honestly, that's just what I do. Like, I was getting told off by someone who's sorting something for one of our events earlier, and they were like, you just don't reply to me. It's like, I'm just really busy and overwhelmed, and it was the weekend. This sounds like I'm like copping out, but in all seriousness, it's not a cop out. They're my boundaries. I'm not gonna reply to you about something that actually isn't urgent at 10 o'clock on a Saturday night. I won't be doing anything else in my life other than probably being in bed at that time. But again, it's not about doing other things that I'd rather be doing. It's just about switching off my brain. And this is a thought that I was having just before we got onto this podcast, weirdly. So this is probably quite relevant. But I was thinking about people who have been in my network over the last few years and who have no qualms in kind of coming to me for advice or just dropping me a WhatsApp and blah blah blah. And like, I'm all ears, and I'm always open to helping and giving advice where I can, where I'm qualified and where I have experience. But what I've realized is that people will continue to ask you for advice more and more and more the more that you're willing to give it. And I've kind of got to a point over the last few months where I've just realized that actually I don't need to be offering all of this up for free all of the time. I'm not going to start charging for advice. I mean, other than like if someone comes to me wanting for consultancy, that kind of thing, structurally very different to somebody just like a colleague or someone in my network just dropping me a WhatsApp literally 3 or 4 times a week. What would you do here? What would you do here? What would you do here? And it's like, I'm quite a giver and I always want to help, and I'm a fixer. So it's like kind of counterintuitive for me to not give that advice and not want to just have that conversation. But I did realize over the course of like the last 2 years, like specifically, especially while I kind of came out of my last agency, more and more people have just been trying to like not use my time, but that's kind of how it starts to feel after a while. So I've kind of just stopped giving as much, and I don't know. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but it's definitely freed me up in terms of time.
It's probably a good thing. I struggle because I really like helping people, but again, you do have to guard your time. So I think it is a good thing. I mean, like everything, it's probably a balance, right? There's people that you take a soft spot for, or that you really want to help them for XYZ reason, and maybe you do get it back. And there's definitely people who advise me and help me who I can't give as much value back to because they're 10 times, a million times better than I am at everything. And I just need them for wisdom.
Yeah, but I do think it's different if you have like an agreement with someone where they're your mentor. Mentorship. Yeah. Yes, I and that's an upfront commitment that they've made and they're happy with. Because the other thing is, you know, when you ask someone to be your mentor, it's a really big deal because you're ultimately asking them for their time for free. And I just think that, like, without sounding like I'm bitching here, people take the piss. Like, people in my network have really taken the piss over the last few years, and I'm not even years, maybe last year or so. And I just kind of had to get to the point where I'm like, you know what, actually, I'm kind of doing my own thing also, and I can't just continue to give my time for free and just jump on a quick 10-minute call to help you 3 times a week. Can't do that. So I do think,
3 times a week?
Yes, babe, sometimes more. Like, one person would just hammer me and like get me on calls for like half an hour, run me through presentation decks or like strategy decks that they're working on for their brand internally, and I'm literally sat there thinking, like, no, this isn't but that's a me problem. That should be me saying, no, I don't have the time. No, I can't commit to this. So yeah, boundaries, I think it's kind of harder when, I don't know, I think women can be worse at this than men at just saying no, actually. Sorry.
I would say so. And essentially sometimes as well, it's hard as well because you do favors for people, but you're obviously giving away a service sometimes for free. Like, I would do things for friends and I would charge a client for it, and it's a really hard thing to navigate sometimes. But I would say one other thing on overwhelm is I've learned, And again, I joke about it, but I'm like, well, I have a meltdown every 6 to 8 weeks approximately. And it's like knowing yourself is really important as well, and knowing what triggers you to have a full-on meltdown about being overwhelmed, and like seeing the signs, because sometimes you can like circumvent it. if
Totally. I actually think it's easier to circumvent these things when you're kind of slightly younger or slightly earlier in your career, because it's not intentional circumvention. It's a bit of naivety around like actually what's going on mentally, and not knowing how to detect those signs and those kind of red flags in your mental health. And I think over a period of, you know, a few years, you become wise to it, and you can like better detect when you're starting to burn out. This is a really interesting conversation that we had with Liz on our previous episode that I think went live. So absolute wise. Legend. So yeah, like probably my favorite episode that we've done, actually, in all seriousness. Just so relatable. Definitely listen to it. I think everyone could benefit from a listen. But yeah, I just think it's about learning how to detect these very clear signs.
Yeah. And there's also an element, like, to the point of being careful who you surround yourself with, also who you're surrounding. So for example, if I was worried about you, or I could see that you were not, I'd tell you to just turn. Well, you've done it to me so many times when you're like, can you turn your laptop off perhaps, or like and it's sometimes it's really important to have those people around you as well who recognize, like, or like when you're like us and you will just work and work and work and work, to have someone to be like, you need to stop.
Well, also, can I just say, I think we have this like really weird from hustle culture, which is still ever present. We have this like idea that you have to be like always responsive or immediately responsive to clients and to suppliers or whatever, or this always on mentality in order to be productive and like moving at the pace that you're expected to move. The reality of that is like that's very overwhelming and inefficient, because you're kind of like jumping around all over the place. So that's the first thing I want to say. But also, I respect nothing more than when a person actually doesn't reply to me straight away because they're just fucking busy, because they have got a lot on, because they are super successful, and you know what, they can manage their time. That for me is respectful, and I'd rather be working with someone like that, because then I know that they're efficiently working with my projects. They're not just like dipping in like I'm going to give you 5 seconds just to get back to you because then I've got back to you. It's like, no, I'm going to take a couple of hours to get back to you, so that when I do, it's comprehensive and informative. That for me is much more impressive and beneficial to my business than the former way of working. What do you think?
Also, though, I agree. And also, there is nothing that triggers, well, maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but if you're having a bad morning and you feel really overwhelmed, there is nothing worse than your phone going off.
I literally feel like today, this is, you know, when I was having like a bit of a meltdown earlier, my phone was just blowing up with just all different, like everything. And I just looked at it, I was like, right now, I just need to focus on this one problem. But it's so hard to do that, because also like the problem not involved Lucy, but I had to like update Lucy about it. And the way we communicate is on WhatsApp. So like I'm on WhatsApp, and as I'm communicating to Lucy, like all these other WhatsApps are pinging up. So yeah, the
but
phone
then
thing.
My way of coping with that is like I could see out of the corner of my eye my phone going off, and the number of notifications from Yasmine going like 6, 7, 8, 9, and I was like,
was it that many?
But then I was just like, a good thing for me is to wait until the number stops and then I'll reply, because it also makes it worse if I reply halfway through. So, and then I just sent a summary back, and it was so fine. But life hack for everyone is I literally don't have notifications on my phone for anything except for WhatsApp. And then I also have a focus setting where the only people that can contact me between certain hours are my parents and brother, and then my clients and co-founder Yasmine. But
that's really
no
cool. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, on focus. And then it just means that it filters out, because also like if my friends send me something funny, I will get distracted, like because I'm a child. Like I am a child if I find something entertaining, and love a voice note and stuff. And so I just have it on that only clients can get through to me. And it works across. To be fair, I also have I have Slack notifications on, but again, that's only clients. And it just means in working hours, it cuts out a lot of noise about like dinner plans next week or like, you know, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
So yeah, tip for everyone there. No one needs, if people are, I still stand by this. If they're messaging you, it's not just for boys actually, it's for everyone. But before anyone comes at me, if they're messaging you on Instagram, like it's not critical because WhatsApp, you know,
I mean, actually, often if they're messaging you on WhatsApp, it's not critical. If they're calling you, answer the phone.
But yeah, it's like
nothing is that urgent. Let's be honest.
This is such a different topic, but I'm like, you know, when people are like, oh, he liked my Instagram, I'm like, that is the least effort thing ever. So don't take it seriously, because like what I like on Instagram is the least amount of effort needed. Sorry, that's a completely different topic.
It's so true.
Shouldn't
but
be
also like
like
a story. But even like a story, like no, you know what's the least like lowball effort? Reaction to a story.
Yeah, that's
actually
what I mean.
No, that's like 2 stages, but still, it's like I hate when people react to my stories because I'm just like, why? Like, why?
However, I must say, if you want to be like hyped up, be friends with Yasmine Sheikh on Instagram, because she is like number one hype. You're great. You always comment nice things and like everything, even if it's irrelevant to anything to do with you. Like, only
if I actually think you look good, or like I like what I'm interacting with. Like I'll never just fake like something, because it's like I am the biggest cheerleader to my friends, because it's important. I just, we were talking about this on the last episode as well. It just feels nice to like make people feel good about themselves. Also, if you do believe something, if you do think someone looks good or whatever, like why would you not just tell them?
I know, it like
takes 2 seconds.
But there's also as well, if you're feeling shit or like you're having the worst morning ever, I literally said this in the last podcast, just saying something nice can really change someone's day, and it definitely helps me to... Also, it does help me to kind of know that someone else is having the same thing. Like, we were both freaking out about different things this morning, and it's so funny because we're both like, this is the worst, I'm so overwhelmed, but then we're like, you've got this, no, you've got it, we're gonna be fine, everyone's great, in like caps lock. It's so unhinged. It's chaos. We need that. We should just insert, I wish we probably can't do this, but on the YouTube we should insert screenshots of like our WhatsApp conversations. Absolutely not, Lucy. Where we're like, whoa, you're amazing, no, you're
absolutely
amazing,
not.
Like, it's so sad, but so important.
Oh god. Well, I was actually thinking, as I was making a coffee just for this podcast, like co-founders, solo founders, my god, I just have so much respect for
Thank you.
Because I'm just thinking, like, imagine going through those issues today on my own and not having Lucy to soundboard from. I would just be like, I'm not doing this.
Harass.
Yeah, I really, really respect you guys.
Well, you say that, but that is where having people around you is so important, and being friends with other founders is important. Like recently, even in Hong Kong, through Ecomm Girls Club, actually, I've made friends with a couple of girls who don't run e-com focused businesses, and it has been so refreshing just to have people who like what are you doing today? I'm like, I'll be in Soho House till 10 p.m. working. You? Same. Great. Cool. Like, it's just so nice sometimes to have that. And I think it is really important with who you surround yourself with. But then sometimes being a co-founder isn't easy, right? And we've spoken about this too. Like, if you don't go on, it's really tough. But my experiences have been good so far.
Yeah, I don't know. I also think like a bit of instinct goes a long way when you are selecting people to work with. But that's the same as not just co-founders, that's like clients as well, contract manufacturers. Yeah, everything's gut feeling. And it is all just kind of, well, not everything's gut feeling, but it goes a long way. Don't you think?
Yeah, it does. And then to our point about, you know, when you feel like everything's going wrong, if you can mitigate things as much as possible by like working with great people, knowing what your services are, like knowing what your priorities are, it does really help, I find. Do you know what is an issue? I have an issue.
Was that sarcasm?
Well, wait till you hear this. My main issue and problem in my life at the moment is, one, if you're that tanned, stop wearing white, because I'm half Irish.
I know. I keep it just my look today isn't. I'm not enjoying it.
I will invite our listeners to review the thumbnail for the last podcast episode where I look like Casper the Ghost. I have been done dirty by Katie and Clara, our editors here, and it's okay. I have got over it. But if anyone goes back and reviews that thumbnail,
look grey.
I look like I've got like pneumonia, and Yasmine is like glistening in her half Tunisian glory, having been in Spain for a week.
Oh God, I had sunbathe the day before that as well.
Justice
for Lucy. You know, we're gonna have the same problem this week as well. In fact,
I'm gonna have to get a spray
probably
tan
for the whole summer.
Lisbon.
God,
gonna have to.
You actually are. I promise not to wear white, although it's mainly the only colour I wear in the summer.
I was gonna
so
say,
don't wear colour.
You do look great. So like,
oh, thanks,
I'm just jealous. Like, but I did get that thumbnail. It made me laugh. I showed my friends.
Same.
You know when normally your friends are like, no, like you look great. My friends are like, yeah, you've been done dirty there. But I
so funny. Sorry.
Much less overwhelmed after this 30-minute conversation. Top tip: go talk to your mates. Honestly,
I feel way less overwhelmed now. Also, just sometimes all I need is just a conversation that's like, I wouldn't say this is related at all to any of the problems we've been working on this morning. So sometimes you need a conversation that's just normal to be like, oh, actually, my life is made up of so many other amazing things, and work is one part of it, and it will be okay.
Yeah, like you'll get through it.
We'll all get through it.
We're all on this journey together, ladies. And then
I feel like I want to ask you something really insightful to like close this conversation off on. I want like a massive knowledge bomb.
My brain cells just, I don't know if they're up to it today, Yasmin. I'm not gonna, you might get a really dumb answer, like, let's be honest. We're both really intelligent, I promise you that, but sometimes there are moments.
Well, see, this is the thing with having a podcast, is like, even on days where shit's hit the fan and you could really do without it, we do have to do this. So
I think
I just want to apologise if today has just been a bit of a weird ramble.
No,
this is what our conversations are actually like, though.
We're all for transparency, like truthfully. Like, we've been so fortunate to have a lot of lovely comments recently, and most of them have been about like, you guys are so honest. It's so great just to hear like normal conversations and know that we're not all crazy, and that actually lots of people are successful in setting up businesses, but they find it really hard. And yeah, if you're in London, come and check us out for the live version of Yasmin and I having a breakdown on June the 20th.
Lucy, should we just do like a live episode where we just sit there for 20 minutes having this conversation? I don't think I could. I think I'd be really nervous. I can't public speak. So I would just be glitchy and weird.
You'll be fine.
Yeah, maybe actually it's a shout. Right, on that note, shall we close off?
Yeah, have a
It's been quite a short conversation. Probably enough for one day.
It's enough. There's a lot of I'm sure people can really unpick this episode and like evaluate our mental health. So
thanks for listening if you've made it this far.
Justice for Lucy and her Irish skin. Anyway. Have a good week.
Have a good week, guys. Bye.
Bye. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit the subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And to get involved with the Ecomm Girls Club, search for @Ecomm Girls Club on Instagram. And if you feel like taking your Instagram stalking one step further, we are both also on Instagram @Yasmin Chic and @LucyCG.